welcome to another East County Sports Report, powered by EastCountySports.com. My name is Jon Owens, and I'm joined, as always, by Dave Dickens and Ramon Scott. Guys, it was week one last week. We got our football experience. It was a fun Friday for me. I know you guys are running around the East County covering all the games. So let's get right to a quick recap in this opening segment and find out what happened out here in the East County.
Well, I'll start over at Sarah High School. The visiting Braves, they had a game handled in the first half, 16-0 going into the half, and then I don't know what happened, but they just ran out of gas, and they went on to lose 40-16 to Sarah High School.
So they had things going, and things just turned south in a hurry.
I think they just ran out of gas.
Sure.
You know, it happens sometimes with El Cajon Valley. They really came out and played a great first half. Dave texted me and said, hey, the Braves are looking really good. They're up. And I was like, hey, let's go Braves. But sometimes Robinson went out of that game with an injury, and that means the Braves even get a little bit shorter on the roster. So that's the problems that they face. They got to fight through that and try to go a full 48 minutes.
What else you got for a recap of that first week?
Yeah, and then we also had the West Hills game against the Southwest El Centro. I thought West Hills would fare a lot better than they did. They had lack of offense. They just didn't look ready to play, and Southwest came in there and teamed them up.
I know we were watching it on the score stream as we were broadcasting our game, and that was one of the most surprising scores of the night.
They have an excellent player on Southwest. He scored 5 touchdowns, including that incredible acrobatic. He looked like Gary Anderson from the Chargers, if I can date you a little bit.
Sure,
back
absolutely.
when he jumped over the Miami Dolphins, he made one of those plays right in Dave's camera, and they just had a little bit too much for West Hills. I know the West Hills knew it was coming at him after they played the year before.
I mean, the only bright spot, I think, for West Hills in that game was Ryan Jewell, wide receiver Ryan Jewell. He had a pick, and he also had a touchdown in the game, so they need to work on their offense. I think their defense is decent, but they definitely have to have a better week this week in the Santana and West Hills Santee Bowl.
Absolutely. We'll be previewing that in a little bit.
Absolutely.
So some other scores that jumped out to you from this first week?
Well, I think, look at some of the surprises, really. Granite Hills went up to San Pasqual and lost. That was a real big shocker. We thought the Eagles would do a lot better. I think we whiffed on that one.
Big time.
Yeah, some other things. Looking at the top poll this week, Helix moved up, got all 28 votes for first place. Only one other team in East County got 1 vote, and it was one person in the media picked Valhalla 10th. And that's the only other point any East County team got in the poll this week was Valhalla.
Wasn't that 4 interceptions by Rashad?
Oh boy, that's something that certainly we'll talk about. It definitely was the Defensive Player of the Week at EastCountySports.com. Rashad Scott, 4 interceptions. He also caught a touchdown pass. He really took advantage of Ike Taylor-Stewart being over on the other side of the field. We talked about the All-American. You know, they don't throw your way, right? Rashad Scott's like, this is going to be a great year.
So Ramon Scott, any relation?
Yeah, me and Rashad, we do a little working out together over at AJ's, and
Good, very good. So you kind of recap some of those games. Any last one or two that stands out for this opening segment?
I mean, we want to go out to Pine Valley. A lot of people tend to forget about them, but Mountain Empire, they just shellacked the Temecula Prep team. They beat them last year handily, but they really took care of business, and I think I would look for Mountain Empire to win that division this year.
So good things happening out there with Mountain Empire.
They got a lot of returning players. Gabriel Hydorn's a great-looking quarterback for them at their level. And Mountain Empire, they're kind of talking up their own game like they're going to do something this year.
Well, that's good. That'll be absolutely. They're our furthest east school in the East County.
We like to include them.
We pull for the Mountain Empire Red Hawks, right?
Yep,
All
Red
right.
Hawk Stadium.
Okay. So now we come into what's probably, I'll tell you what's on my mind all week is what are you guys going to pick? I won't bring up the stats from last week. We'll maybe go back and tabulate them here. But let's talk about this week. Games coming up this week that really jump out to you. You want to jump on that, not bandwagon, but you want to jump out there and make a prediction.
I think I would start with what we opened up with, which is El Cajon Valley. I mean, this is a must-win game, I think, to get back on track against Kearney. And, you know, Kearney beat them pretty handily last time out, but I'm looking for the Braves to get their offensive line together and possibly make a game out of it. But I'm still going to take Kearney by 7.
Okay, Kearney by 7.
Yeah, depth is always going to be the problem, but Elkhorn Valley mentioned the offensive line, Big Mason Talia. We want to see him get out there and exert his big force, his big body out there. And really, the Braves need to fight through, like we said, and play the whole game, and they can stay competitive. I'm going to side right along here with Dave.
Okay.
Comets by a touchdown.
All right, so 2 picks for the Comets. Moving on.
Yeah, I want to take it out right now to the Honor Bowl, which is going to be held at Cathedral Catholic High School this Friday and Saturday. On Friday, Christian is going to be taking on Boren. They're coming in down. They're coming in down from the desert, and the thing with them, they are really undersized and undermanned. They are a replacement team for a team that had to back out of the Honor Bowl. It's unfortunate for Christian. They're going to be a decided favorite, but Boren really exudes what the Honor Bowl is all about. They're a community team full of spirit, full of drive. They're going to be undersized and undermanned, and Christian will end up playing their entire roster in this game, and they won't be ashamed to score a few points too. They've got the national spotlight certainly in their range now with Brad Jeremiah. He threw for 532 yards last
Amazing.
week
Yeah.
and 7 touchdowns. Now I went back and looked
You
at.
probably won't be let back in the state of Utah after
I had to go back and look at that game film, and what they did, they ran a little shovel pass 3 times to the cutting back, and that really tacked on some extra yards there. So it's a legit total for Brad, and it's going to be a mismatch. I don't want to quote a score here. It's going to be Christian by many points.
Okay. What do you got for us, Dan?
And then I want to go over to the famed, I guess they have so many names for it, the Santee Bowl, the Jack Dale Bowl, the Mayor's Cup, and that's Santana and West Hills. And the Pack are actually 20-8 against the visiting Sultans. So the West Hillians were stuffed last week by Southwest, even with their comeback attempt with Ryan Jewell and the touchdown late. I'm going to definitely go with Santana on this one. I think they're going to break the streak, and I think they got the offense and the defense to do it.
West Hillians. I like that. It's good.
Yeah, no, we didn't know that West Hills was going to be the team that kind of upset Santana last year. We didn't know Santana was going to be as good as they were, but West Hills won that game early in the season last year, so they're going to have to be careful and not do the same thing this year. Santana has to be ready. Cameron Kane looks good, and so does Davin Chestnut for Santana.
Now, are you throwing a little Santana favoritism here with the purple shirt here today?
That might be possible.
All right.
But I don't want to say.
Okay, so what's our next game on the
Yeah,
list?
I'm going to conclude with the Honor Bowl. I want to mention that these games will be streamed on the Fox Sports Go app. The Christian game Friday at 4:30. The Helix game Saturday at noon. Helix is playing Paraclete. Paraclete out of Lancaster. These are going to be 2 of the top 15 teams in the entire state. Arguably, until we get to the postseason, this will be the biggest game played in the East County this year by the rankings of the teams, even though Paraclete's visiting. And not much more to say other than how great a game it's going to be, but Paraclete has a top-notch quarterback coming in. He actually transferred into Paraclete, and he had over 300 yards in his first game, Smith. And it's going to make for a great battle because he's heading to Princeton. Cam and Carson Baker's heading to UC Davis. These are 2 guys I want leading my team.
Absolutely. Pretty academically strong, both of them.
Yeah, and also I'm going to take Helix in that game, and Helix played down to the opposition a little bit last year against Clayton Valley in the Honor Bowl. They probably should have beat them by more. Expect a close game here too, Helix by 6.
And then I'm going to take it over to Madison, heading over to Steel Canyon. I think the Cougars are underrated. They were worried about size this year, but McKinney had 93 yards rushing last week against Brawley, which is a pretty tough opponent, especially in 105-degree heat.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was amazing that they pulled that off. They said they had quite a bit of, what was that stuff? Pedialyte. They were having Pedialyte pops to keep them hydrated, no cramping on the field. But the main thing is their defensive star, Atherton, he had an interception to end the game and seal the fate for Steel Canyon.
Yeah, that pretty much clinched it. It's going to be a real tall order going up against the Madison Warhawks for Steel Canyon. They did a great job, proved us wrong. They went into Brawley and probably played the way they knew they could play, especially defensively. Brawley is no joke out there, and that's why it was such a tough, rough and tumble game. But I want to see special teams come into play for Steel Canyon. Jordan and Anderson are 2 great return men. They need to really focus as much as they need to on special teams this week, and not just offense and defense. Try to shorten that field, control the ball, keep the score low. It's going to be so tough to beat this Madison team. I think I'm going to be generous and say Madison by 8.
Okay, so Madison by 8. And what was your pick on Madison Steel?
Yeah, I'm going to say by 7.
Okay, Madison. So you're picking Madison on both. Maybe the Cougars will be our upset special. We'll find out. So you also have Olympian at Grossmont.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Grossman. I know Bishops took care of them handily last week, but I still think that they have the system and they have the athletes to make it possible. So I'm gonna go with Grossmont. I mean, they just have so many weapons.
Yeah, Grossmont was in the game last week. They definitely gave them all they could. Grossmont still kind of fumbling around with the quarterbacks a little bit, but it looks like right now Jamie Odom might have the upper hand on the senior Dylan Smith. We'll see how that works out in practice this week. Grossmont beat Olympian last year at home. That was with Hunter Gaines, but this is the game that Grossmont needs to win to prove that they are still a team to be reckoned with. So we got to give the nod to Grossmont in this one. We're going to say Grossmont by 7.
Okay. All right. And you're good with that?
I'm going to say by 14.
Okay. All right. Well,
Nice. Go
we'll
Hillers.
take it in double there. All right. So Valhalla Granite Hills.
Yeah, I think in this one, what you want to be looking at is the rivalry between these two teams. You'd think it's kind of one-sided, but Granite Hills has actually done a nice job in some of these games. I think it's 5-3 over the last 8 years. We're all wondering what happened to Granite Hills last week. Let's hope it was a look ahead, because the big three, they weren't quite what we wanted them to be going up against a team that they played in twice the year before in San Pasqual. We thought that they would be able to figure them out, and they got blown out of the game. So they're going to really have to slow down Valhalla a little bit. Looks like Dennis Dolan maybe getting a few more attempts over Brian Madriz right now.
Well, they're freeing up Madriz for he's playing a lot in the slot, and he actually threw for a touchdown last week from that position. So they can come at you with two quarterbacks in the field at once. Dolan has a huge arm actually, and does a fabulous job. But Brian is such a good athlete that he can be dangerous anywhere on the field. So now you have two targets out there doing great things for Valhalla. And I think Coach Bussey would probably say they were a little rough in their opening against Scripps Ranch. They did win, but we'll see if they smooth out some of those bumps this week against Granite.
Yeah, and I think even though he was Jake Siegfried, quarterback for Granite Hills, he was 7-20 the last time he was here at Valhalla. But I'm looking at him use his legs, and I mean he had almost 86 yards rushing against San Pasqual. So I think if they can mix it up with the running game and the passing game, they have a chance. I'm going to actually still go with Valhalla 35-21.
That sounds fine by me. Norseman by 10.
Yeah, and the word on the street, Grant's having a big pep assembly on Friday, trying to get those Eagles all ready for Valhalla to come on over there. Always fun to watch those two schools, two great rivals, in my opinion. Moving on over to Monte Vista versus University City.
You know, Monte Vista and that Monte Vista game, that came down to the wire. I mean, with the running game and then even the passing game, I mean, they're just tough on both sides of the ball, defense in particular as well. And I'm sure Ramon can.
Well, Jamon had the big 73-yard touchdown run in the second half. They had gotten out to a lead by a couple of touchdowns, and Mar Vista came back on and tied the game. But right when the moment happened, Jamon went right through that line and ran down the right side for a touchdown in that game. Don't sleep on this game at all. This is a huge game in Division 4. Two of the top 4 teams in Division 4 looks like heading into the future, if you will. So we might be looking at a possible playoff matchup here, maybe even as semifinals or finals with these two teams.
And how are you picking it?
I'm going to go with the Monarchs on the road by 3.
Okay.
I concur.
El Cap with another tough draw, Mater Dei. Doesn't get much easier for the Vaqueros. What are you guys looking at here?
Well, I think Berger and his crew have their work cut out for him once again. The repeated thing that he keeps mentioning is he does have the youth, but he says that they're almost there, and especially with their quarterback, which will be back next year. He's young, Wickhauser. He definitely did well. I mean, they put up 18 points against a tough Madison squad. So I think if they play, and these are his words, if they play a flawless game, they can win that game. And I'll even go out on a limb and say El Cap by 7.
Okay.
Yeah, Mater Dei lost all their players really from last year's championship team. Not all of them, but you know what I mean. And I think with Antonio Olivieri and Chris McDonough and crew, I think El Cap can stay in this game this time. They lost last year 41-14 in that game, and that was in Lakeside. This one's on the road, but look for El Cap to hang in there. I'm going to say Mater Dei by 3.
Well, it comes down to our last two games that you guys are going to talk about. We'll head out far east again, Mountain Empire taking on San Ysidro.
I think Coach Bernard Van and the Mountain Empire Warhawks are pumping themselves up a little bit, and I think it's a fair thing to do. I mean, with Wyatt Mann and Gabriel Hydorn, I think the Warhawks are going to make some noise this year, and we're going to cover them because that's what we do. We love our Warhawks.
Yeah, it is a far place to go out there in Pine Valley, but them coming a little closer to San Ysidro. You know, when I was talking to Bernard Van, and one of his main things he did in the off season is he was actually holding special camps just to beef these guys up. And he also, note this, he started a Pop Warner League for that city. They never had one in all history.
And Mountain Empire really encompasses a lot of communities out there. Actually, campus in Campo, you do have Pine Valley, you have Descanso, and parts of the Alpine area as well. So absolutely, big area.
We'll be at the game this week, John. When they come east, when they come west, we want to make sure we see them. They're going to be at San Ysidro. We're going to make sure we're out
and
there.
And no bias by me. I lived in Descanso for 5 years.
We're going to visit the Warhawks this week.
All right.
So I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say the Red Hawks by 14.
Sounds good to me. I'll go Warhawks by 7.
Okay, so Red Hawks, Warhawks, they're all Hawks. They're going to do well. Last one, Chula Vista at Mount Miguel.
Well, you know, Mount Miguel, they played their tails off, and you know what it came down to, like Sean McDade said, they ran out of time. That's what it came down to. They let Morris get back into it, and they let him score at the end quickly, and then their formula was, well, we can march right back down there too, and we can run out the clock, but they were stymied, and they lost in the last waning moments. But they did play a good Morris team. Morris has lots of weapons as well. But I will say that their quarterback, Miller, I mean, he's a great, smart kid behind center.
Yeah, and Shamar Green definitely played well, and I thought they really gave a good account of themselves last week in that game against Morris. They played Chula Vista last year in the season opener at Chula Vista, and it was 35-31. And talk about a game that they had a chance to win in that one too. Made a couple of key mistakes late, lost the game 35-31. So they're at home this time. I looked at them. This game is very evenly rated. Mount Miguel's going to win this one by 4.
All right, well, if you want more details on any of the games we talked about, head on over to eastcountysports.com. Tell you what, these two guys got you covered, got pictures, got some videos. We'll throw some highlights up there as well. Of course, you can always watch us and find us on YouTube, and once again, relink back to eastcountysports.com. As always, each week we turn things over to Coach Hutch with an Under the Lights segment.
Typically when a season starts, most coaches set up a program. And I think it's really important if a parent does have a question for a coach about a player or their playing time or their experience, ask the coach how they establish their depth chart. What are your requirements for the players? Do you test your kids? Again, at Valhalla High School in the years that I coached here, we would evaluate our players and we would have numbers, or strength numbers, or speed numbers. We test them on their ability to block. We test them on their ability to run through ground drills, footwork. All of those things matter. In a practice, a coach is evaluating all of those different aspects of the game, and that isn't something that's always apparent to a parent or a loved one on a Friday night. They might see that kid's playing over my kid, not understanding that the kid might be stronger in the weight room, not understanding that the other kid is faster. The other kid is 3 inches taller or 20 pounds heavier. So for the specific requirements for those positions, there are requirements that those coaches look at. If you have a question for a coach, make them specific to those needs. How do you evaluate who's playing over who? How do you evaluate who's going to be quarterback or who's going to play receiver? Most coaches will have an adequate answer for that question. And again, if you want to have those conversations, come prepared with actual questions that the people can answer, so then they can make you feel better about the experience. Ultimately, everybody on Friday night, when you're under the lights, wants to have a positive experience. It's a great community thing to be together, to cheer on your school, to cheer on your kids. It's very difficult when you watch the negativity sometimes that happens. And I would finish with one last example. Years ago, we were getting ready to play a game against St. Augustine High School in the playoffs. And I got a game film between Saints and Mira Mesa. And at the time, Mira Mesa was the #1 team in the county, and they had a Division I quarterback. And the film that I watched was filmed from the stands, and the Mira Mesa stands during the game, and they were the #1 team in the county. And the whole film were the parents running down and talking negatively about the coach because their kid wasn't playing. which to me as a coach was amazing because I was the #1 team in the county, the best player in the county. So no matter where you're at, you're going to catch some heat. That's understandable. It doesn't always make for a great experience for everyone around you if that negativity comes out loudly during a Friday night.
Well, here on the East County Sports Report, we're not just about prep sports. We cover the college too. Of course, Grossmont College, always a fan favorite here in the East County for top-notch junior college football. Dave, you got some rundown on Grossmont's game this weekend.
Yeah, Grossmont's going to take on Mesa this week, the Olympians, and I'm looking for them to get out there and get after it and probably win by at least 3 touchdowns. The main character in this story is going to be Brad Cagle. I mean, he was fantastic last year. He was all conference last year, and I also like that offensive line with the mixture of East County guys. It's mostly an East County put together team, so there's not too many transfers this year, but they're looking good. I think they're going to beat Mesa.
I'll talk about the defense. Coach Arnold's defense, led, of course, by Jordan is geeking Jordan Ellis. 9 interceptions last year. That was right up there with the top guys in the state, probably second in the state, tied for first in Southern California, something like that. Who cares? It was 9 interceptions.
Well, that's it for another East County Sports Report. Make sure you head on over to eastcountysports.com for all the details, stats, and top-notch coverage you can't find anywhere else. We'll see you next week on the East County Sports Report.